Masson didn't fully grasp her words, but he nodded in agreement nonetheless. Suddenly, amidst the otherwise silent penthouse, they heard the distinct sound of a door clicking shut. Masson's eyes widened in shock, and they both hurriedly made their way towards the source of the sound. As they reached the door, they caught a glimpse of a figure disappearing into the distance. It was Ethan leaving the penthouse. Ethan! Masson was about to shout his name, but Blair quickly covered his mouth, preventing any further noise. "We gotta be quiet, Masson," Blair whispered urgently. "He's probably near the elevator. Let's catch up before he slips away." Masson nodded, and they stealthily pursued Ethan, their footsteps echoing in the empty penthouse. It felt like a never-ending chase, with Ethan always just out of their grasp. Yeah, we need to make it to the Amethyst Diamond Casino fast." Blair grabbed Masson's arm and pulled him to a stop as they reached the elevator. They hid behind a nearby wall, eavesdropping on Ethan's phone call. "Thomas Martin will be there too. And the deal should go down today," Ethan spoke, giving instructions to the person on the other side of the line. "And yeah, my driver Marcus will pick you up from the Blue Fressy bar. Just tell Thomas the first sent you to my place." No, I'll handle that murder case," he added after a brief pause, and then entered the elevator as soon as he pressed the button. Blair and Masson exchanged puzzled looks as they watched Ethan disappear into the elevator. Something about his conversation seemed off, and they couldn't help but wonder what he was gonna do now. "All right, Masson, you gotta take Marcus' place at the Amethyst Diamond Casino. No matter what," Blair instructed, her voice determined. "And I'll follow Ethan to wherever he's headed." "But why?" Masson inquired. "I mean, you said you wanted to spy on your new boss, so I came with you. But why do we have to follow him till the casino or somewhere else?" He really looked puzzled. "Just do as I say, please," Blair said with a pouty face, and he had no other way but to agree with her. 6 p.m. evening. Blue Fressy bar. Just as Blair said, Masson came to the Blue Fressy bar. His eyes widened with excitement as he walked inside. It was his first time being here as a detective, so he made sure to carry himself confidently, entering with his head held high. He didn't want anyone to think it was his first time investigating the case alone. This bar looks really high class, where rich people used to come to enjoy themselves, and it is usually the detective Dyro who manages such places if anything happens. The interior view of the bar is a sight to behold, as it is a stunning display of elegance and sophistication. The walls are painted a deep, rich shade of blue that exudes a sense of calm and tranquility. The lighting is soft and ambient, casting a warm glow over the space. Masson walks further on a sleek marble floor and sits on one of the plush velvet bar stools which line in a row, inviting guests to sit and enjoy a drink while taking in the luxurious surroundings. He looked at the shelves behind the bartender that were lined with bottles of top-shelf liquor, sparkling glassware, and fresh ingredients for crafting exquisite cocktails. He turned his head and saw the tables were adorned with fresh flowers and candles, creating a romantic and intimate atmosphere. It really looks like a place where anyone can escape the hustle and bustle of the outside world. That was the moment when he desperately wanted to bring Blair and enjoy being with her. One day he will, not as a detective but as a husband, he promised himself. He took a deep breath and collected his wandering thoughts. He looked at the bartender who leaned in to ask for his drink, but Masson discreetly revealed his police identification card and smiled at the bartender, who glanced first at him and then at his ID card, reading his full name, Detective Masson Brown. He quickly straightened up, giving him a nervous look. "Sorry sir, I don't know that, my apologies." The bartender quickly apologized for his mistake. He was a nice young man with dark brown hair and green eyes. He looked like the type of person who enjoyed life to the fullest. Masson nodded, maintaining his stern expressions. "I came here to investigate a murder case, and I'm searching for a specific person, named Marcus. Do you have any information about him?" "Marcus James?" The bartender asked him politely and responded with a question instead of an answer, since he didn't know his full name. He simply nodded, and the bartender motioned towards the table in the corner. Masson spotted a man sitting alone at a table in the corner. He was a tall, muscular man with a menacing presence. His dark eyes flashed like obsidian daggers against his tanned face and short black hair. Masson made a beeline for him as fast as he could without making it obvious that he was running towards him, and sat directly behind him. Masson's heart raced in his chest as he sensed the tension in the air, waiting for Marcus to make a move so he could confirm his identity. It felt like he had been sitting there for hours, and finally Marcus's head turned slightly to glance over Masson's shoulder at someone. There was surprise on his face before his lips curled into a sinister smirk. Masson turned around quickly and saw a woman who looked vaguely familiar, but not too much to recognize her. Masson's heart leapt as she turned around to meet his gaze. He couldn't help it. She was beautiful, with long wavy brunette hair that swept down past her shoulders in waves. A large emerald necklace dangled from her delicate neck, while an elegant gold bracelet circled the slender wrist. Masson quickly turned his eyes to avoid getting her attention. Marcus turned back to the bartender and gestured for some water. The bartender immediately obliged and poured a glass. After drinking half of it, Marcus placed the glass aside. Masson knew that meant they would take action that night. Suddenly, he felt nervous about being part of Blair's plan, which could lead to death or something worse. But he didn't dare interrupt as Marcus's phone rang. He answered the call and said, 37, yes, I'm coming outside. Even after leaving the Luxor Lodgings Hotel, Blair continued to follow Ethan. Walking in 6-inch heels became increasingly difficult. The heat from the morning sun spread everywhere, causing irritation in her eyes from the contact lenses. However, she couldn't let discomfort hinder her mission. She discreetly trailed behind Ethan, ensuring she maintained a safe distance. She wondered why he was walking on the road instead of taking his car. He didn't appear aware of her presence, focused on the bustling city streets. The noise of honking cars and chattering pedestrians filled the air, creating a chaotic symphony that masked the sound of her footsteps. Suddenly, her phone rang. She took it out of her bag and saw Miss Charlotte's name on the screen. Quickly, she answered, "Hello, Miss Charlotte." Miss Charlotte's voice came through the phone, sharp and authoritative. "I asked you to follow my son, Ethan. Did you discover anything suspicious?" Blair paused for a moment to gather her thoughts. She felt nervous. She had been watching Ethan since he arrived at work that morning, noting every detail she could remember from his actions. So far, there hadn't been any clues indicating he may have committed anything suspicious. "No, Chairman. I have been monitoring him since yesterday, but I found nothing," Blair admitted nervously. "Did he meet Thomas Martin yesterday?" Miss Charlotte inquired. Blair was quiet, almost hesitant. There was definitely something wrong, as Miss Charlotte wanted to ask so many questions about her son, needing help from an employee instead of a professional detective. Stunned by the question, it took Blair a moment before she managed to stammer out an answer. She swallowed and shook her head before answering. "No, Miss Charlotte. Yesterday he was with a girl, not with Thomas Martin." "With a girl? Which girl?" Miss Charlotte asked, her tone slightly indignant. Blair closed her eyes, trying to remember the name from the passport she had seen. "With a girl named Ava Smith from Australia. I think she is his classmate." "All right, leave him for now and make sure he won't see you there," Miss Charlotte quickly instructed before hanging up the phone abruptly, as memories flooded her mind like a movie reel. A slight laugh escaped Blair's lips. She had always worked hard to catch Miss Charlotte's attention, but Kaylee always reaped the rewards of her efforts. However, this time would be different. She jumped in excitement, causing her feet to ache. This time, she would surely make Miss Charlotte proud and earn her reward. One day before Ethan became CEO of Lopez Food Company, 1 a.m., early morning hours. Phone ring. Blair answered the phone, her eyes fixated on it, seeing President Miss Charlotte on the screen. Glancing at the clock, she noticed it was 1 a.m. "Why is Miss Charlotte calling so early?" She quickly answered the call, attempting to maintain a steady voice. "Hello, Miss Charlotte. Is there something urgent?" "Yes, Blair, I needed your help with something urgent. Could you talk?" Miss Charlotte said in her usual clipped tone, which Blair had become used to over the years of working together. But it still made Blair uneasy. Yes, Miss Charlotte. What did you need? There was a pause. Finally, Miss Charlotte answered. I wanted you to keep an eye on my son Ethan for me. But do it discreetly, no one could know. Blair raised her eyebrows slightly at that. She wasn't in a position to ask her boss a question, so she kept quiet, instead focusing on the task she was assigned. Miss Charlotte continued speaking before Blair could say anything. This is very important, she stressed. You understand, right? Sure, ma'am, Blair responded quietly. When do I have to do this? Miss Charlotte sighed heavily before responding. Tomorrow, he is set to become the CEO. And Thomas Martin is going to contact him. Blair's heart skipped a beat. Miss Charlotte had always been a demanding boss, but this request felt different. Spying on her own son. It seemed like a breach of trust, but she couldn't refuse her. Surely, Miss Charlotte. I will do my utmost to gather any information you require. Miss Charlotte let out a sigh, her voice softening slightly. Thank you, Blair. I understand this is a strange request, but I must safeguard my family's reputation. I will provide you with all the necessary resources. Just keep me updated with any minor detail. And remember to do it quietly. Involving the police is not an option. It could harm my family's reputation and the business. If this news were to become public, it could reflect poorly on me as a leader and potentially impact the business. Noted, I'll do as instructed. Blair responded calmly without asking further questions. She ended the phone call, feeling a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. What could Ethan be involved in that would drive his own mother to such extremes? Blair had been working for Miss Charlotte for years, and she had always been a formidable woman, but this was a whole new level of intensity. She quickly messaged Masson, knowing she couldn't do it without him. Taking a deep breath, she got out of bed. Whatever, she shrugged and came to her canvas in the other room, where she decided to continue her sketch. She was so happy it was almost hard for her to go back to sleep. She had been working on it for days and was finally giving the final touches to the eyes, which were green with black pupils, making a perfect match with the curly brown hair. The details and fine lines on the face were very important. They made it look like a real personal masterpiece. This is it, she muttered under her breath and smiled at her hard work. Present. Blair hailed a cab with a hand signal and provided the driver with the address, fastening her seatbelt. 123 Ilmaid Street, Victorville, colon 98765. At that moment, she had no desire to return to the office. Yesterday was her birthday, and she had promised her mother that she would celebrate with her. Can you stop at a bakery? I wanted to get a cake before I get home, she requested, and the cab driver nodded at her request. She rolled down the window, feeling the strong wind against her face from outside. Today she was truly happy. She wanted to spend the entire day with her mother, Ms. Elizabeth. Since Ms. Elizabeth's divorce, she had always been her source of strength, supporting her through thick and thin. Ms. Elizabeth had witnessed her daughter at her lowest points and never gave up on her. So Blair also made a promise to herself that from now on, she would prioritize the things that truly mattered in her life, starting with spending quality time with the woman who had given her life. The cab pulled up to her childhood home, and she saw the excitement in her mother's eyes as she eagerly awaited her arrival. The house adorned with colorful balloons and streamers testified to her mother's love and dedication. She stepped out of the cab, her heart brimming with gratitude for the chance to celebrate the special day with the person who meant the world to her. Inside, the aroma of her favorite childhood dishes filled the air, instantly transporting her back to simpler times. They sat at the dining table, sharing stories and laughter, reminiscing about the past and dreaming about the future. It was in those moments of connection and love that she realized the true essence of happiness. The joy that came from nurturing relationships and cherishing the present. Though she had already brought her birthday cake, her mother surprised her by presenting a homemade cake adorned with flickering candles. The room filled with warmth and love as they sang the familiar birthday song, their voices blending together in celebration of another year of life. However, this time, the gravity of the occasion extended beyond the number of candles on the cake. It symbolized a fresh start, a newfound appreciation for the simple pleasures that life offered. As the final note of the song faded away, Blair closed her eyes and silently made a wish. It wasn't for material possessions or external achievements, but rather for the continued presence of love, joy, and contentment in her life. She blew out the candles, feeling a sense of peace wash over her, knowing that true happiness resided within herself and the cherished relationships she held. She embraced her mother tightly, realizing that the greatest gift she could give herself was a commitment to prioritize her internal happiness. From that moment onward, she vowed to live each day with gratitude, embracing the simple pleasures and nurturing the relationships that brought her genuine joy. As she celebrated her birthday surrounded by love, she understood that this was only the beginning of a lifetime filled with internal happiness. Suddenly, her phone rang, and she noticed the screen flashing with an unknown number. When she answered, a male voice came through. "Hello, is this Joseph Anderson's residence?" Upon hearing that name, she felt a pang of annoyance. Seeing her mother's joy, she quickly moved to another room. She didn't want that name to accidentally reach her ears. "No," Blair replied curtly, wanting to end the call. "Blair Anderson, Joseph Anderson is your father, right?" The person on the other side said in a panicked tone, which infuriated her. "No, he's not my father. He only has one daughter, Kaylee Rodriguez. If you have any business, talk to her," Blair shouted in anger. The man on the other end seemed surprised by her sudden outburst. There was a moment of silence before he hesitantly spoke again. "I'm sorry, I must have dialed the wrong number. I apologize for bothering you," he said. His voice now filled with regret. Blair hung up the phone angrily and sighed, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. Her father's name stirred up a whirlwind of emotions within her. Joseph Anderson was not just any man, he was her father, or at least he used to be. She shook her head and returned to her mother, who sat looking at her childhood pictures. Those photos brought back memories of laughter, joy, and innocence. It was amazing how happy her mother and she looked in those pictures. Joseph Anderson's name was nowhere to be found. And honestly, why would someone not in their pictures be in their thoughts or lives? She watched her mother, lost in thought, gaze at the pictures with a mixture of longing and sadness. It was as if she was searching for something that had been lost, something that could never be replaced. It wasn't that Blair never missed her father. She still missed him a lot. And the more she remembered her father, the more she hated Kaylee. Blair was only 10 years old when he left them. As she grew up, she was always aware of his absence, but moments like these made her feel the void even more deeply. She often wondered what it would have been like to have a father figure in her life, someone to guide, teach, and share her successes and failures. However, his absence left a void that no one else could fill. Lost in her thoughts, she looked at her mother when she received another call from the same number. Annoyed by the ringing phone, her mother raised her head and asked, "Who is calling you?" "It's nothing, Mom. Someone from the office." "I have to answer it," Blair shrugged. "Well, at least tell the office people not to disturb us at night. It's family time. Make time for your responsibilities. 8 hours of work in 24 hours should be enough," her mother said, making a face. "Don't worry, I'll let them know. I'm just going to listen to this phone call," Blair said quickly, picking up the phone that had been ringing continuously for the past 5 minutes. "Hello," she answered, trying to sound calm despite the growing unease in her stomach. "Is this Blair?" a familiar voice asked on the other side of the line. "Yes, who is this?" she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's me again, the same caller who told you about your father," the voice said, sounding urgent. "What do you want now?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I need to inform you that your father has been severely beaten by some individuals. He is currently in the ICU at St. Mew Hospital. I tried calling Kaylee, but she did not answer, so I had to reach out to you once more," the caller said, his voice filled with concern. Blair's thoughts raced as she attempted to comprehend the situation. Why would someone harm him? And who were these adversaries that her father had encountered? Blue Fressy Bar. Masson knew this was his chance. Marcus stood up and headed towards the exit, his eyes scanning the room as he made his way through the crowd. Masson quickly followed, keeping a safe distance to avoid arousing suspicion. As Marcus stepped outside, Masson saw him glance around before entering a nearby alley. He cautiously followed him, his senses heightened with each step. The alley was dimly lit, with the sound of distant traffic echoing in the background. He watched as Marcus stopped in front of a door, hesitating for a moment before entering. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to take a risk. He quietly approached the door and listened for any sounds from inside. Hearing nothing, he slowly turned the doorknob and slipped into the room. To his surprise, he found himself in a small, dimly lit bathroom. He wondered what Marcus would have come here to do while Ethan's driver is waiting for him outside. The sound of running water filled the air as he spotted Marcus standing in front of the sink, splashing water on his face. He seemed lost in thoughts, unaware of Masson's presence. Masson knew he had to act quickly. He grabbed a nearby towel and soaked it in chloroform, a substance he always kept handy for situations like these. With a steady hand, he approached Marcus from behind and pressed the towel against his mouth and nose. Marcus struggled for a moment, his eyes widening in realization, but the chloroform quickly took effect. His body went limp, and Masson gently lowered him to the floor, making sure not to make any noise that could attract attention. As Marcus was unconscious, Masson wasted no time. He quickly searched his pockets, finding his identification and the key to his hotel room. He also discovered a hidden pocket in his jacket, containing sleek black sunglasses and a fake mustache. It was the perfect disguise. But Thomas knows him, then why this disguise? The first doubt ran through his mind. Feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness, Masson changed into Marcus' getup, making sure to adjust the fake mustache to perfection. He glanced at the unconscious Marcus one last time before leaving the bathroom, prepared to take on his identity, and made his way to Amethyst Diamond Casino with Ethan's driver. The interior view of the casino is a sight to behold, as it is adorned with an abundance of purple diamonds. The walls are covered in shimmering amethyst-colored diamond panels, reflecting light and creating a mesmerizing ambience. The ceiling is adorned with intricate chandeliers made of purple diamonds, casting a soft, ethereal glow throughout the space. He walked on the plush purple carpets, and those velvet drapes on the walls were adding a touch of luxury. The gaming tables are made of polished amethyst, with purple diamond accents embedded in the edges. The slot machines are also adorned with purple diamond details, adding a glamorous touch to the gaming experience. He looked around and noticed the staff dressed in sophisticated black uniforms, adding to the overall theme. The dealers at the tables are professional and attentive, ensuring a seamless gambling experience for the patrons with the sounds of laughter, clinking glasses, and the occasional cheer from a lucky winner. There are high rollers placing large bets at the blackjack and poker tables, while others try their luck at the slot machines or roulette wheel. The atmosphere is one of excitement and anticipation, as people eagerly await the outcome of their bets. At the sound of the beep, he quickly took his phone out of his pocket and saw Blair's name flashing in black words. He opened her message and saw a picture with the name, Thomas Martin, written below. Masson took a look at his picture and went to the restroom. This job was not new to him, but it was his first time to meet a criminal like Thomas, so he was a little nervous inside. While washing his hands, he caught a glimpse of him in the mirror. His reflection stared back at him with determination in his eyes. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. This was just another job, he reminded himself. He had done this countless times before. His eyes passed through his face and stopped at the black denim jacket. Just a few hours ago, this jacket was owned by someone else. Someone else was waiting to meet Thomas, wearing this. As he exited the casino restroom, a surge of adrenaline coursed through him. He was aware that Marcus was a high-stakes gambler, and tonight, he would be taking on his role. With confidence, he made his way to the exclusive high roller section. The dealers and staff greeted him as if they knew him, mistaking him for Marcus. He settled into Marcus's usual spot at the table, surrounded by other wealthy gamblers who weren't oblivious to the switch that had occurred. Now, all he had to do was to wait for Thomas Martin to join the game. Just at that moment, Thomas Martin entered the casino accompanied by two women. Lily, a tall and slender brunette with striking agate eyes that held a mischievous glint, caught Mason's attention. She exuded confidence and seduction, effortlessly captivating anyone who crossed her path. Known for her involvement in daring high-stakes heists, Lily had managed to elude capture numerous times. She had a reputation for her exceptional skills in cracking safes and her ability to vanish without a trace. On the other hand, the second girl, named Emma, was shorter and had a more petite frame. She had fiery red hair that fell in loose curls around her face. Her emerald green eyes sparkled with a mix of intelligence and a touch of danger. She had a mysterious air about her, as if she held secrets that she would never reveal. She had a reputation for being a skilled hacker and had been involved in various cybercrimes. Her ability to manipulate technology and exploit security systems made her a formidable adversary. Amethyst Diamond Casino. As Thomas Martin entered the casino with the two girls, whispers spread throughout the room. People knew of their criminal past and the danger they posed. The trio had recently escaped from a high-security prison, leaving law enforcement agencies baffled. Their escape had been meticulously planned, showcasing their resourcefulness and cunning. Their reputation preceded them, and it was evident that Lily and Emma were not to be underestimated. They possessed their own unique forms of danger, with Lily's physical strength and Emma's technological expertise. Together, they formed a formidable team capable of executing intricate and audacious criminal schemes. Mason sat in his seat and observed every movement of Thomas. Instead of approaching Mason, Thomas went to the Corleone and Moretti families. These two mafias, who were also business partners and founders of Delish Delight Company, found themselves entangled in a perilous drug-dealing case within the confines of the casino. Weren't they competitors of Lopez Food Company? So why was Ethan going against his mother and dealing with them? Mason shrugged and stood up to meet Thomas. Leaning back, he whispered the same words in Thomas's ear that Marcus spoke at the Blue Fressy bar. Deal 37. Mason didn't yet know the importance of those words, but he still felt compelled to share them. Thomas carefully examined the mustache on his face and chuckled, motioning for him to sit. "You will be playing in my place today, Marcus," Thomas said, placing his hand on Mason's shoulder. Mason nodded in agreement, displaying his confidence, and began observing the Corleone and Moretti families seated before him. His eyes narrowed. Corleone family. Benjamin Corleone, the aging patriarch of the Corleone family, exuded an air of authority and power, dressed in a shawl lapel suit. He had a black and white beard and a piercing dark brown gaze. Luca, the snake, Benjamin's trusted lieutenant, was known for his cunning and ruthlessness. Sophia Corleone, Benjamin's daughter, was a femme fatale with a taste for danger. She possessed striking beauty, with blonde hair and dark brown eyes like her father, often seen in elegant dresses and expensive jewelry. Moretti family. Henry Moretti, the head of the Moretti family, was a towering figure with a shaved head and a thick, graying beard. He favored dark tweed suits and was rarely seen without his gold chain necklace. Marco, the Shadow, Henry's right-hand man, was a master of disguise and deception. Marco often changed his appearance, making it difficult to identify him. Mia Moretti, Henry's daughter, was a woman of intelligence and ambition. She bore a striking resemblance to her father, with short black hair, amber eyes, and a penchant for tweed suits. And Mason had to play with those individuals. On one side of a spacious table sat Mia Moretti and Sophia Corleone. The competition was to be among the three of them, both for this game and for his destiny. As the cards were distributed, a surge of excitement coursed through him. He had effectively infiltrated Marcus's realm, and now it was his moment to demonstrate his worth. With every hand, he played with precision and expertise, meticulously implementing the strategies he had gleaned from observing Ethan during his espionage. Hours passed, and the chips piled up in front of him. The other players watched in awe as Masson seemed to have an uncanny ability to predict their moves. The casino staff whispered amongst themselves, impressed by his seemingly unbeatable winning streak. But deep down, he knew that his time as Marcus was limited. Eventually, someone would discover the truth, and he would have to face the consequences. But for now, he relished the thrill of the game, determined to make the most of this unexpected opportunity. After all, in the world of spies and deception, there was no room for sentimentality. It was all about survival, and tonight he was determined to come out on top. This game was just an excuse. Benjamin Corleone and Henry Moretti actually met Thomas Martin for another purpose. Benjamin leaned in, speaking softly. "Thomas, have you brought the paintings we discussed?" Thomas nodded. "Yes, Mr. Corleone. The paintings are ready for display. Our artists have done their job well." His voice was cool and controlled as always. Henry Moretti smirked. "Excellent. Let's ensure they find their way to the gallery without any mishaps." The words were spoken carefully and quietly so that only they could hear. "Rest assured, Mr. Moretti," Thomas grinned. "Our curators will handle it discreetly. No one will suspect a thing." He interjected, his voice filled with confidence. "And don't worry, the curators we've hired are experts in their fields. They know how to handle delicate matters." Benjamin leaned back, a sly smile playing on his lips. "I trust your curators, Thomas, but we must remain vigilant. There are other players in this game, and we can't afford any unwanted attention. We've heard rumors of a rival gang trying to infiltrate our operation. We need to be one step ahead of them." Henry's voice was laced with caution, and his eyes were hard, as if he was judging Thomas. It didn't bother Thomas as much as it did most people. Thomas nodded, his expression serious. "I've taken precautions, Mr. Moretti. Our security team is on high alert. No one will get past them." Benjamin and Henry signaled to Luca and Marco, who followed Emma and Lily down into the casino basement. They opened the large wooden door made of solid oak, which led into a vast and dark space with high-ceiling fans swirling about like leaves in a breeze. The wooden door creaked loudly when they locked it from the inside after everyone was safely inside. The four young people were greeted by an eerie atmosphere. There was only one light source in the room, which shone from somewhere near the center, where a large crate was covered with black fabric that looked like a tent. Luca and Marco both pointed over the top of Lily's shoulder, their eyes darting back and forth over the crate.